Hello to all you Motorhead bangers out there, and as well to the Motorhead casual fans. Welcome, and do you know what time it is? It's Motorhead o'clock. That's what time it is. Yes, it's time for the one and only, the official, this is official Motorhead rankings. All the other ones you've seen, you may find other ones on YouTube. Those are not real. Those are just opinions. This is the official rankings. This is the one that matters. You can disregard. You can like all those other ones. You can follow them, but they're not real. This is the real one. I've been teasing this for quite some time. I've had this in my mind for, I would say, at least 3 months. I've gone through all the Motorhead discography. Not all of them. This is going to be 23 records. There are some here that I didn't do as part of my series called I Want to Talk About This Album. But this is going to be all 23. That's going to include On Parole. It's not going to include any compilations or live albums or anything like that. Imports, things like that. This is just basically the 23 Motorhead albums. And I've only ever done these album rankings with Kiss before. It's hard to do these. I've been thinking about this and planning this for months, and I've seen some other rankings, Motorhead and other bands, and I kind of watched them. I really put a lot of work into this. I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm better because of that. But, you know, I've seen so many album rankings of all kinds of bands. I've watched a lot of Kiss and some Motorhead and, you know, all the bands that I like. And what I find frustrating about a lot of them is they're just very, very basically, for a lot of them. I saw one guy do a Motorhead album ranking with 23 albums, and it took him like 12 minutes. This is going to be a lot longer than 12 minutes. I can tell you that much. And how can you talk about 23 records in 12 minutes? And another thing that I found kind of strange is that some of these people, they just basically list the albums and then mention a couple of songs off each record. I want to go a little bit more, or maybe a lot more in depth than that. I put a lot of thought into this. I need to justify why, you know, one album is at 17 and another one is at 8, or why this is at the bottom or why this is near the top. A lot of the factors or the criteria that I considered with this was not just the actual music itself, although that's the main thing. For me, as a longtime Motorhead fan, and if you haven't seen any of my videos before, I can tell you, I've been a Motorhead fan since 1983. That's 41 years I've been a Motorhead fan, almost all my life. I have a Motorhead tattoo here. I have another Motorhead tattoo on my leg. I have to defend myself or to justify my Motorhead fandom if there are any bigger Motorhead fans out there than I am. I'm not trying to brag or anything or flex. People like to say flex. I'm not flexing. I'm just, you know, to put things into perspective, I am a big Motorhead fan. So yeah, it's the music was considered, but also had to think, you know, what I thought about the record at the time compared to what I think about it now. Sometimes it's different, sometimes it's the same. Kind of how I anticipated each record. If you love one record, you kind of have higher hopes for the next one. If you didn't really like one record, you maybe don't have high hopes for the next one, so maybe it was surprisingly good. You have to consider the point. I considered the point of the band's career when each of these albums came out. All of those put together is how I came up with my list. And I found that when I was doing this list, there were ones that I knew. I kind of put these into kind of 4 or 5 different categories. There are 2 records, the 2 at the bottom, I don't like those. I just don't like those Motorhead records. The top 3, I guess, were pretty easy, and then the next 3, the ones that I really, really loved, those were pretty easy. And then another category was ones that I think there were about 6 or 7 it's not that I dislike them, and you can go back and watch my reviews of those records more in depth, talking about them track by track. But there are 6 or 7 that I kind of am not really familiar with and don't really have too much an opinion about. Those are of 23, the bottom 2, those were clear. I don't like those. From 21 to 15, that's those are ones that any of those could be interchangeable. 21 could be 15, no, maybe not quite. Could be 21. That's not exactly true, but more or less. The next category, there were 2 that I'm not really familiar with, but I do really like them quite a lot. I feel like I need to get into them more. There were And then there was a group of 3 that I love a lot of it, but a couple of songs I'm not. They're middle of the road. I'm quite familiar with the albums. Some songs that I love and some songs I'm just not really into. And then I would say my top. The top, I don't know. Let's say the top 9 were more or less easy to put into place. So I kind of did that, and I kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together and came up with this list of 23. I did listen to all these records, all of them, every song from every album over the last 3 months. I mean, my top ones, I didn't need to pay as much attention to them because I've known for decades how much I like them. The ones at the bottom were pretty clear too. But the rest in the middle, let's say, I don't know, like around 14 or 15 albums, I really had to find a home, a place for all of those. So that's what I'm about to do. I'm about to go through all the Motorhead records. Now, normally, a couple of rules here. Let's say 2 rules. I found that when anybody does these album rankings, they always say when they transition from one to the other, they always say coming in at number blah, 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 like they're Casey Kasem or Dick Clark or something. I think it was Casey Kasem who said that. I'm not going to be saying that. I'm just going to say the numbers. That's a small thing. Now, I would also show the record, each record. But if I do that, then you know what you can do, you bastards, you can skip through and you can say, okay, here he is in the video holding up this record or this record, and that's the one I want to hear his opinion about. And then you're not going to watch all the rest of it. So I'm going to force you to sit and watch this for, I don't know how long this is going to be, probably an hour, at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half, possibly even more. But I will show all the records. Just, again, I have to prove myself that I do have them all. Some I have on record, some I have on CD, some I have on both. I'm just going to go through them. And I'll go through them in chronological order. That means the order in which they were released. It has nothing to do with the ranking system. So if you're watching this, disregard this as a ranking, all right? So, I'll cheat. I don't know if it's cheating or not a little bit. I'm going to start with, at least in the order they came out, On Parole. I know this was, I guess, released as their 4th record. It was recorded first, but it didn't come out until after the 3rd or 4th record. I'm not sure. I consider it the first Motorhead record. There's On Parole. Next was, and it's a mix of CD and vinyl, there's the, what some people might say, the real first Motorhead album. I think it's On Parole. But there's that one, the self-titled. This is just called Motorhead. The CD, I mean, I had this on CD before I had it on record. The War Pig was not quite as defined as it came to be. And also the Motorhead logo was pink, first of all. And it wasn't quite the classic Motorhead logo that they used for the rest of their career. So a little bit of a different thing there. Next was Overkill. After that came, and sorry for being out of frame here, Bumber. Next, Ace O Spades. I think I've got these in order. Next is Iron Fist. Next is APD, which is short for Another Perfect Day. Next is Orgasmatron. And it's hard for me to not say anything about these records as I'm showing them, because I want to say, oh, I love this record. Oh, this record sucks or whatever. So I will get to that. Next after Orgasmatron is Rock and Roll, 1987. I should say the year of all these, 1916. It didn't come out in 1916 because Motorhead didn't exist in 1916. This is 1916. It came out in 1991. Next is, from 1993, this is Bastards. And then it gets a little bit funky. No, sorry, I missed one because I had them in CD. Before, so 1916 came out in 91. March or Die came out in 92. I don't have this on vinyl. And then in 1993 was Bastards. And then next was 95. This was Sacrifice. 96 was Overnight Sensation. 98 was Snakebite Love. And I think now I'm going back. Yeah, now I can go back to records. We Are Motorhead. We Are Motorhead came out in 2000. And then Hammered. Hammered I have on CD. This is the last of CDs I have. This was 2002. No, sorry, there's one more CD that I have. And then after Hammered in 2002 was Inferno, 2004. I start to get a little bit foggy about the years here. This was Kiss of Death, 2006. I know that for sure was 2006. Was Kiss of Death. Motorizer is next. I think this was 2008. I think that they pretty much had albums every 2 calendar years. Next, The World Is Yours, 2010. I feel like, am I missing something here? Am I 2010? Maybe not. No, I'm not. Aftershock was was this 2014? It says 2017, but that's when this actual record came out. I think the record was released in 2012 or 13 or something. And that was their penultimate album. And then their final album was Bad Magic, which came out died in 2015. That came out earlier in that year, 2015. Yeah. So that's all of them. That's all 23. And I think now, and I'm not going to show them again because I don't want you to skip ahead to see which record that you want to hear me talk about. So, I'm going to try my hardest not to make this a track by track. That might be hard for some of my real favorites. But it might take a lot of willpower on my part to keep my big mouth shut. All right, so number 23, and I want to hold it up, but I'm not. And before I get to that, how could I forget? Leave a comment down below. I don't expect you to rank all 23. As a matter of fact, please don't, because if you just have that on standby, I probably don't trust your list. Because as I said, for me, these lists should be taken very seriously, and they require a lot of thought and effort and work and time. So, but if you want to leave your top 3 or 5 or 10, or just the ones that you really like, or I don't know, some people say Motorhead doesn't have any bad records. I disagree, at least on the top 2 or the first 2, the bottom 2, I guess. Tell me how crazy I am for disliking your favorite album. And tell me how crazy I am for listing, my top 3 as albums that you think suck. All right. So 23. Now that I have the rules out of the way, 23 is March or Die. Yeah, this album sucks, and I'll justify it by this. One is that the album cover sucks, and I talked about this when I talked recently about Iron Maiden Power Slave. You could apply this to Motorhead, Kiss, Iron Maiden. Often before you hear the music, you see the record cover, and bands put a lot of work and effort and spend a lot of money into making. At least they used to. Maybe it's not as much. Maybe not as much now. It's not as important now. Into making a good record cover, a good sleeve, because it catches people's attention. And that's what it's supposed to do. And I think, now that doesn't mean just because you love the album cover, it doesn't mean you love the album. Just because the album cover sucks, doesn't mean the album sucks. Faith No More, I don't know if they've ever had a good album cover. I don't even know if they've had. I think all the Faith No More album covers suck, but they're one of my favorite bands ever. But the album cover sucks, and the music is not much better. So maybe it was like, you see it, and then you immediately think, album cover sucks, so I don't have high hopes for the record. I don't know, but this, I think this was Motorhead. Also, it was coming off, this was 92, this was coming off 1916, which I won't tell you where it is on my list, but I really like that album a lot. So again, maybe my expectations for March or Die were very high because it was coming off an album that I really liked, 1916, and it just didn't live up to those expectations. Also at this point, Filthy was gone, Phil Taylor was gone. He came back for a couple of albums. He came back for Rock and Roll in 1916, and he was gone. And I've talked about this before. Similar to maybe Peter Criss, they're maybe not the best drummers, but they're the best drummers for their bands. And Filthy, I think, just had a great style to his playing. And again, I don't know if I should be judging anybody's musical talent, but I really liked Filthy. And I think at this point, since he was gone, this felt kind of like with Saint Anger, how they didn't have a bass player on Saint Anger and Bob Rock filled in. And that kind of throws you off a little bit. I think a lot of metal fans don't really like when there's just a fill-in guy. And on March or Die, I think Mickey D maybe played drums on 1 or 2 songs. I think Filthy played maybe on 1 song. I think they started recording, he got 1 done, and then Lemmy sacked him. And I think Tommy Aldridge played the rest. Now, I don't know if anybody would know. I don't know if anybody can listen to 1 song and say, oh, I know that's Filthy playing, or that's Mickey D, or that's Tommy Aldridge. But I think that had a factor in it too. They didn't seem like Motorhead like a band. But even disregarding all that, March or Die just sucks. And I did write a few notes here. Hellraiser is just possibly, I think, the worst Motorhead song ever. That song sucks. It sucks. It's terrible. That bass at the beginning totally sounds like Unskinny Bop by Poison. Lemmy's bass is one of the most distinctive sounds in music, not just distinctive basses, but I think distinctive sounds in music. And hearing that intro to Hellraiser, that kind of boom, 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 that really bad bass, and the song is not much better. They did a cover of Cat Scratch Fever, which I thought also sucked. I don't know if when Motorhead covered more contemporary songs, the cover of Enter Sandman was atrocious, and Whiplash maybe was even worse. Cat Scratch Fever, I just don't know why they covered it. And I like Cat Scratch Fever, but I just don't want to hear Motorhead doing it. I thought it sucked. And You Better Run, I think that was the first, and I think seems like on every Motorhead album after March or Die, they had one of these songs like this, which I'm about to say. The token blues song, and on this one is You Better Run. And maybe there were a few albums here and there after March or Die that didn't have that doon, 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 you know, that bluesy song, but didn't like that. So yeah, March or Die, that album sucks. So if anybody who says Motorhead didn't have a bad album, I strongly disagree, because March or Die is certainly a bad album. And Ozzy sings something on March or Die too, right? He I Ain't No Nice Guy, yeah, which is, I don't know, I don't really care about that song, nor about Ozzy. So that's March or Die. Next is, and this album I think is also not very good, Overnight Sensation. It's just not, and again with the album cover, man, that album cover sucks. How many album covers have Motorhead, the band, on them? Ace of Spades, for sure, which is kind of funny, which is considered, you know, their signature album, their magnum opus, their best album, yet it has, you know, it's one of the rare, I think of only 2 that doesn't have the Motorhead War Pig on it. So, you know, you see the 3 guys on there, and Lemmy had shaved his mustache and his mutton chops and everything. And again, you might be the most raging metalhead who claims to not be a poser, and that only posers are, you know, drawn to music by their eyes instead of their ears. But I'm really, really sincere in thinking that is part of it. And I just, so you see that album cover, and for me, it just didn't catch my attention at all. And the album, I didn't write any notes about it. Let me check Overnight Sensation. Oh, and also just the sound of this album. It wasn't a really, my cat is going to jump up and knock everything over. Get out of here. It's just a really bad sounding album, and everybody talks about the producer, and the producer is a lot more responsible for a lot more things than how the album sounds. So I don't even know who produced this, but I wouldn't. Produced by Ryan Dorn and Motorhead. I don't even know who Ryan Dorn is. Produced by Howard Benson and Dwayne Barron. Howard Benson, I know, produced the first Bang Tango album. I don't know how I know that. And Dwayne Barron, did he do Tesla? Or maybe he engineered some. I definitely know the name Dwayne Barron. And then co-produced by Ryan Dorn and Motorhead. This is not a good sounding album. It doesn't sound like how Motorhead should sound. And there are a few other ones like that sound a little bit off. They're still easily identifiable as Motorhead, but they were lacking something. This album just sounded kind of muddy, and just not one. Let me see the songs. Civil War, Crazy Like a Fox, I Don't Believe a Word, Overnight Sensation. I remember, Civil War, Fast Song, and Overnight Sensation. Nothing about this album appeals to me. Just not a very good Motorhead album, I think. Next is Aftershock. My main beef or gripe with Aftershock is it's just too long. It's 14 songs, and by the time you get to around 10 songs, by the time I got to around the 10th song, I was just tired of listening to it. I don't know how long it is. It's probably 55 minutes. 14 songs is just way too long. I do remember going to Mexico. Maybe it's predetermined that I should like that song because I live in Mexico. But going to Mexico was okay, and Crying Shame. And what was the other song on Aftershock that I liked? Oh, Queen of the Damned. Queen of the Damned had that kind of cool buzzy bass, which was again also a little bit off of the Motorhead bass song, but it was okay. Bass sound, I should say. So yeah, Aftershock, and I should say starting with here at 21 with Aftershock. These next Aftershock 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The next 7. 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15. Yeah, 7. These could mostly be interchangeable. So Aftershock number 21. Next is, although Aftershock had a cool cover. I really like that cover, the album cover. Next is Hammered. Hammered was the last one I listened to. I listened to that today. Never got into it at the time. This came out in 2004. At that point, 2002. At that point, I was kind of checking out on Motorhead, although I did really like the record that came before it. I won't say what that is. If you're a Motorhead fan. But this one, I just didn't get into Hammered. It's not necessarily, again, that it's bad. It's just there was nothing really that caught my attention. I've talked before about how Lemmy really recycles his lyrics and his song titles. He totally recycled there's a song called Red Raw, and he sings Unseen, Wet Dream, Sharp Claw, which is almost word for word like Mean Machine on Orgasmatron. Stay clean, Wet Dream, Mean Machine, on the high side on the Mean Machine. And now the one song that I do like on this one is Serial Killer, which is the last song, last or second to last, which I'll mention in a second. It's not so much a song, it's just a kind of a spoken word thing. There's not really any music to speak of. It's just Lemmy kind of speaking in that. He's got that Orgasmatron, guttural voice, just spoken word. And then as the song continues, there's some kind of background kind of noise coming in, and it kind of builds in intensity. That's I guess my favorite song on Hammered. Other than that, really nothing noteworthy on Hammered. Now this also had, I think it was a bonus track. I don't think it was on my CD. It is. I do have it on the as a bonus track on the CD. The Game. It's time to play the game, which was Triple H's. The Wrestler. It was his theme song. And God, I've heard that song far, far, far more than anything else on this album, just because at that time, anyway, I was a big wrestling fan. It's hard to believe now that I used to like that crap. No, back then it was really good. It's crap now. And so when Triple H used to wrestle, he came into that song for years. So I'm very familiar with that one, but never really liked it. And I know it wasn't written by Motorhead, by Lemmy or by Motorhead. It was written by one of the WWF musical guys. Maybe that's why. I don't know if that crept into my subconscious, but yeah, The Game is not a favorite, although I am very familiar with it. Next, that was Hammered at number 20. Next at number 19, The World Is Yours. I remember when I did this at the time, I said this is kind of a forgotten Motorhead album. It's kind of like the ones, if I had to list all 23 Motorhead albums, I would get to 22 and I would be going, I'm missing one. Which one am I missing? and then it would take me several minutes to realize it was The World Is Yours. I think there was really nothing on this one, let me check, that really stood out to me. But overall, I did enjoy it when I listened to it. Let me just check here. I Know How to Die was okay. Yeah, but I did like it, but just nothing. I'm repeating myself, and maybe I should get those records in a better position. Yeah, The World Is Yours. It's pretty good, but man, Motorhead was really in formula at this point. From Pick the Album right through Bad Magic. Let's say from Hammered through Bad Magic, they were really, 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 paint by numbers. Some people really like that. Next, so that was The World Is Yours, number 19. 18, I think from what I remember watching other Motorhead ranking videos, now remember those don't count because those are all just people's opinions. This is the official one. A lot of people were putting this album much higher than what I have it at is 18, and that's Inferno. This to me was, and I think the reason why a lot of people love it is the reason why I don't like it that much. And again, so I have this at 18. I could have put it at 21 or 20 or 19, but I have Inferno at 18. For me, this was the beginning of Motorhead being a heavy band, and I've talked about this before. To me, Motorhead is a heavy metal band. I don't care what Lemmy says. Lemmy, hated that term. He said no, we're rock and roll, and well, unfortunately, Lemmy doesn't get to choose how people categorize his music. And in the I guess late 70s through the 80s, Motorhead was heavy metal, but AC/DC was heavy metal, and Kiss was heavy metal, and Van Halen was heavy metal. But they were heavy metal, but they weren't heavy, if that makes any sense. Starting, I think, with, they had some songs here and there before Inferno that were heavy, but I think overall Inferno was a fairly heavy album. As I said, a lot of people love that. I don't really care for that too much. This had, what was the opening song? There were a couple on this album that I like. What was the opening song of Inferno? Terminal Show. Killers, In the Name of Tragedy. In the Name of Tragedy. Whoops, I lost. The hype sticker came out. Oh, I'm so sorry for being off camera. But something came out of there. Yeah, Inferno, it's okay. As I said, it could have been anywhere a little bit higher or a little bit lower on this list. So that's Inferno number 18. Something I'm noticing is the other people were they weren't as I feel like I'm kind of all over the place. Maybe it's because I'm just talking too much. Next at number 17 is Bad Magic. This is the last Motorhead record. I probably put this up as high as it is, honestly, out of pity. It could have been as low as 21. I have it at 17. Yeah, it could have been at 21. Again, with the expectations, it was the last Motorhead record. Probably most people knew at that time, even before Lemmy died. I think I kind of felt like the last several Motorhead records were going to be their last one. And so when Bad Magic came out, it was like, okay, this is probably the last Motorhead record. And I didn't buy it at the time. I bought it after Lemmy died, just because I guess I came to the realization that this is going to be my last chance to buy a Motorhead record, at least a new Motorhead record. They keep putting out all these box sets and reissues and everything, but this is the last studio album that they did. And I remember the first song is Victory or Die, which that always kind of bothered me a little bit. The title, Victory or Die, shouldn't it be Victory or Death? Victory is a noun, die is a verb. It should be noun versus noun or verb versus verb, but victory or die doesn't make any sense. Victory or Death is what it should be called. That's how the song opens. And I think there are 12 songs. Are there 12 on Bad Magic? Well, there's 13. Yeah, because there was a bonus track of Sympathy for the Devil, which actually that was okay. I like the Sympathy for the Devil cover much better than the Cat Scratch Fever cover or those awful Metallica covers. Yeah, 12 songs is a little bit much. And 12 songs is not one of my favorite albums ever is Devil in the Details by Saigon Kick, which I think is 15 songs. 17, I think, if you include the bonus tracks. but there's a wide variety of songs and music on there and styles. For Motorhead, 10 is okay. So this one is a little bit long. So Bad Magic at number 17. Next is Motorizer. There were three that I liked on Motorizer. Teach You How to Sing the Blues, Rock Out With Your Cock Out, and English Rose. I liked all three of those songs. The rest of it was okay. That's why I put this up a little bit higher of these ones that I'm more or less indifferent to. And I did enjoy it more than I thought when I listened to it from beginning to end. Motorizer. At number 16, which I could have put at 15. At 15, I have Kiss of Death. This is going to be the last one that I talk about that, I'm kind of indifferent to. All of the ones after this, I do like in, obviously to greater degree as they're going to go on. So Kiss of Death had two great songs on it. Christine, which was really good. And for me, one of the best Motorhead songs of the era, which is Ramones, 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 which was originally on 1916, but they re-recorded it. And I think it's way better. The Kiss of Death version, I think, is way better than the 1916 version. It's just more intense, it's faster, it's got more power, more energy. That alone, I think, was why I put it a little bit higher, one spot higher than Motorizer. But again, 15 and 16 could have been more or less the same. Could have flip-flopped. So Motorizer 16, Kiss of Death 15. Next, we're getting into, as I said, the albums that I like. Now, these next two, I'm not overly familiar with them, and they're kind of like from that mid-era of Motorhead. When I was kind of out of them, I lost track of Motorhead through the mid-90s, and then again from like 2005 to the end. And I was kind of out of Motorhead at this time, but when I listened to this album recently, there were a couple songs that I knew, but when I listened to the whole record, I found that I did like it, and that is at number 14, Sacrifice. I think Sacrifice is considered by fans to be a really good Motorhead record. It's got Over Your Shoulder, which I like a lot. Is Dogs of War, is that on Dogs of War? Dogface Boy? God, some of these Motorhead titles are so similar. What else is on Sacrifice? Let me check Sacrifice. Yeah, Sacrifice, the title track, of course, very fast. Over Your Shoulder was good. Dogface Boy, that's what I was thinking of. And that's it. Those are the only ones that I'm really familiar with. But overall, I do like this album. This came out in 1995. And it is quite good. I think, as I said, I think this is considered by most Motorhead fans to be a good album. The next one I think is, not considered to be a good Motorhead album by those in the know. And that is 1998 Snakebite Love. I really like Snakebite Love. I listened to it today. I've listened to it here and there over the years. Now, I think part of the reason why I like it was this album or this tour kind of brought me back into the Motorhead world. So this came out in 98, and the last album I had bought up to this point was Bastards in 93. I didn't buy, at the time they came out, I did not buy Sacrifice in 95, and I didn't buy Overnight Sensation. And I think I also didn't buy Snake by Love at the time, but I did see that tour, and I'll tell you a little story about that tour. This was in Kitchener, Ontario, which was amazing that, Kitchener is not a big town or a big city. Nobody really plays in Kitchener, although I saw Pearl Jam there in 2005 too. So when somebody comes to Kitchener, I used to live pretty close to Kitchener. That was a big deal for Motorhead to come to Kitchener. And what I remember about that was, at the time, this was in May 98, or maybe it was 99 at that point. I can't remember. The album came out in 98. I don't remember when the show was. May or June 98? I could be wrong. You can go on Setlist FM and check that out. Motorhead Kitchener. And at that time, I used to work afternoons. I worked from like 3 o'clock or 3:30 in the afternoon until 11:30 or midnight, something like that. And there used to be a store that I used to go to every day when I would drive to work. I would stop at that store and buy a newspaper, a Kit Kat, and a little carton of milk. And the guy that worked at the store, I can't remember how this came up. I kind of knew him. He never seemed like a metalhead at all. I remember his wife was deadly hot. And I think they own the store. And I don't know if it was the day of the concert or the day before the concert. And maybe I was wearing a Motorhead shirt or something, but the guy said, "Oh, did you know Motorhead is playing in Kitchener?" I don't remember if I knew. I think at that time I didn't know. I think he might have told me, and I guess I didn't know. That's the way I remember it. And I said, "No, I didn't know when." And he said it was either tonight or the next night. And he said, "Do you want to go?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." So whether it was that night or the next night, I called in sick to work, and I saw Motorhead. And I remember my friend, the guy who owned the store, he got kicked out that night. He was getting a little bit too jerky, I think, in the pit. And I was right up at the front, and I saw kind of some commotion. I saw some security came, and they grabbed him and they took him out. And so I guess he waited outside, and I went out and I saw him after the show. And I didn't even know this guy. I don't think I ever learned his name, and I ever at any point. And so I guess I felt kind of like awkward, and I didn't ask him like, "Why'd you get kicked out?" or something. But he was waiting for me, and we went back home. But I love that show, man. That tour was really good. They were playing 18 or 19 or 20 or 21 songs. They played Shine on that tour, which I think they hadn't done for many, many years. This was, I think, about my 4th time seeing Motorhead. And yeah, so maybe that's why I like Snakebite Love so much, is because I have the memories of seeing that tour. Although I would even say, no, Love, man, the title track, Snakebite Love, that's the Motorhead I like. It's got, it's kind of a fun song, in the zoo, in the zoo. Don't want to see the, I want to see, in the zoo, I want to see the snakes. Don't want to see the lions or the gorillas or the apes. I want to see a python squeezed around you tight, or a boa constrictor in the middle of the night. And then he talks about the rabbits and the ants and the termites and the ants and everything. I love Snakebite Love. The title track is just a great, great song. Maybe one of the best from the era of Motorhead, from like 93 right to the end. My top 5 for sure, maybe top 3. There's one for sure that I like way, way better. Maybe my favorite Motorhead song ever, and which I will get to. But yeah, Snakebite Love, the title track is great. And in Assassin, there's a cool, I feel it's like a Sepultura, kind of a drum break. Something that Sepultura might have done on the Roots album. In Assassin, there's that drum break. What else was on Snakebite Love? Oh yeah, Dogs of War. Joy of Labor, I remember that one. That was kind of a weird song, a little bit slow for Motorhead. Love for Sale, good opening song. Yeah, I think Snakebite Love is quite a good album. So that's Snakebite Love at number 13. Number 12 is On Parole. Now this one I wasn't sure where to put. When I first started kind of thinking about it before I made the actual list, I'll hold it high far away so nobody can look ahead. When I first was making this list, I knew March or Die was going to be at the bottom. It was my instinct to put On Parole at like 2nd from the bottom. It was going to be at number 22. And then as I went through the albums and listened to them all, I realized, and there's another one too, I like this album much more than I thought. I was late to this album. I didn't get this album probably until the mid, maybe even late 90s. And I don't think I had heard a single song from it, at least none of the versions that are on this album. And when I heard it, I thought, this sucks. This doesn't sound like Motorhead at all, which at that point, they clearly hadn't developed their sound or their style. Lemmy didn't sound like Lemmy on Parole. And I just thought, this album is garbage. And pretty much disregarded it for years, decades even, until somewhat recently. And now I find that I really like it. Not quite, enough to put it any higher than number 12. On Parole's at number 12. And the reason I put it at number 12 is there's another record. It's their first album, what some people call their first record, this one. Not the first one recorded, but the first one released was this one. It's I think 5 of the songs are the same. Motorhead, the song Motorhead, Vibrator, Lost Johnny, The Watcher, and Iron Horse, Born to Lose. All of the versions on Motorhead, the second, which was really the first, or the first, which was really the second, all of those 5 songs on the Motorhead version I like them better than on Parole. They were developing their sound a little bit by that time, but still didn't really sound like the Motorhead that we, came to know shortly after. But yeah, I think On Parole is quite good. And it does have a few songs on here that were not on Motorhead. Fools, On Parole, I'm on parole, I'm on parole. Kind of a fun song. Light, On Parole was not on Motorhead. City Kids, Leaving Here, the cover of that old 60s song, and Fools. But yeah, On Parole is much better. Oh, I said I wasn't going to show it. On Parole is much better than I thought it was. It just took me, many, many years or even decades to realize that. So On Parole at number 12. And now starting at number 12, I would say 12, 11, and 10. These could be a little bit interchangeable. I had these 3 and I kind of had to shuffle them around a little bit because they're real hits or somewhat misses. So at number 11, I have Bastards. And so Bastards came out in 93. I guess part of the reason why I loved it, and I did buy it at the time, was because it came after March or Die, which sucked. So, I guess I had kind of low expectations. I thought if March or Die was so bad, I'm not expecting too much with Bastards. But I bought it and was very, very happy with it. You could argue, I mentioned earlier that Inferno was maybe their first heavy album or their first real, kind of thrashy, not thrashy, but you know what I mean. Burner was very, very fast. And I know a lot of people really like that style of Motorhead. I like it. It's okay. But I like Motorhead more that has the swing and the sway and the swagger and the groove and the bounce to it. Although I do like, a lot of faster songs too, like Ace of Spades. But Bastards, yeah, it was very good. A couple of my real favorites on this one, especially Liar is actually that one. What did I say earlier is one of my favorites? Snake by Love. No, I like Liar much better than Snake by Love. And I'm Your Man. Those are great songs. Don't Let Daddy Kiss Me. As I said, this album is a little bit hit or miss. Don't Let Daddy Kiss Me, I think, is just a stupid waste of a song. Lost in the Ozone, it's just kind of pointless. It's kind of slow and mellow. Do I have to fix my camera here? Sorry. Yeah, so a couple of songs on Bastards I wasn't too crazy about. But overall, the songs that are great are really, really good. So that's why I have Bastards at number 11. And I could say almost the same thing for number 10. Number 10 is We Are Motorhead. Now, the reason We Are Motorhead is as high as number 10 is because it contains possibly my favorite Motorhead song ever. That's, Motorhead has 23 albums. I know there's a few repeats and things like that. So let's say 10 songs per album, 230 right there. Plus they've got all kinds of B-sides. Let's say Motorhead has 250 songs. We Are Motorhead, the song, might be number 1. There are a few other ones that are, also contenders. But maybe more than anything, I cite We Are Motorhead as my favorite Motorhead song ever. And that brings the album up much, much higher maybe than if that song weren't on there or if I didn't like it so much. We Shoot Power to Your Heart, A Mighty Thunderbolt. We Charge Your Batteries. We Save Your Soul. We know When We're Licked and We Turn Lead to Gold. We Know Alchemy. We Bring You Rock and Roll. We Are the Ones You Love or We're the Ones You Hate. We Are the Ones Who Are Way Too Early or Too Late. We Are the Storm at Night, The Fire and the Trash. We Are Motorhead, Born to Kick Your Ass. I think I might have conflated a couple of lines there, but We Are Motorhead is fantastic. Stay Out of Jail is really good. They did a cover of God Save the Queen, which was, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I guess it was okay. Slow Dance was good. Stage Fright, Crash and Burn. One More Fucking Time was okay. A little bit slow, similar to Lost in the Ozone. But yeah, We Are Motorhead, good enough to be at number 10 for me. Number 9, this was another one. I was a little bit conflicted about this album. I talked about it in a recent episode of I Want to Talk About This Album. I think it was the last Motorhead record that I did, and that's Iron Fist. So this came out in 1982. This came out before I knew about Motorhead, so maybe that's why it kind of skews things a little bit. And that's another thing. It depends, if you got into Motorhead, if you're 18 years old now, and you got into Motorhead because you heard Aftershock in 2012 when you were 6 years old and your father liked them, you're going to love that era of Motorhead, and maybe you're not going to like Iron Fist or Ace of Spades as much. So timeline is important. So this came out in 82, but I didn't hear it until, I heard a few songs, but I didn't hear it until much later. And as I said when I talked about that and I Want to Talk About This Album, I'm not exactly sure why I don't love Iron Fist as much as I should. And I think a lot of people kind of feel the same way. This is, even though it is their classic lineup, it was the last album that the classic lineup did of Lemmy, Fast Eddie, and Filthy. There was just something that, great songs, I think, but it's just a little bit off. It kind of sounded weird, which again, I don't think has anything to do with the producer, who was Fast Eddie. The title track, Iron Fist, is another one in my top 5. So what's in my top 5, at least from albums I've talked about so far? We Are Motorhead and Iron Fist, the song. Those are two in my top 5. Teenage Backstage, Sex and Outrage, America, Cold as Death, Up to Canada, Crystal Meth. I'm Your Doctor, that's a great song, man. That's how I like Motorhead to be. That's got some real bounce to it. Heart of Stone. Yeah, I like Iron Fist, but I just never fully embraced it. I don't know, but it's number 9. I wasn't sure where to put that. I thought, do I like it better than We Are Motorhead or Bastards? And I thought, yeah, I think I do. But I was close to having a little bit lower. But as it stands, Iron Fist is number 9. Number 8. Now I had switched 8 and 7. I had 7 and 8, then I crossed them out and flip-flopped them. Number 8, I have Motorhead, the first record or second record, depending on how you look at it. This has gone up way higher over the years. This was one similar to On Parole. I thought of those as kind of companion albums because, as I said, they, especially On Parole, don't sound particularly good. They don't sound like Motorhead for sure. But I've really in the last, quite recently, year and a half maybe, I've listened to that album more and realized that I was really missing out on We Are Motorhead. Now this also has this is the third one I would say of my top contenders. The song Motorhead by the band Motorhead on the album Motorhead is also top contender for number 1 spot. So we got Motorhead, Iron Fist, and We Are Motorhead. And there are several versions of We Are Motorhead. Well, this one on the album Motorhead and on Parole. There was a version on No Sleep Till Hammersmith, which I didn't have at the time, but I did have No Remorse. And so I grew up as a teenager only really knowing the live version, which I loved. And then when I heard the studio version from Motorhead, I thought, this sucks. The live version is way better. But over the years, I think I've changed to, I think it's more charming when it's not as fast and aggressive as they played it on No Sleep Till Hammersmith. But yeah, Motorhead, the self-titled is number 8. It was number 7, which I'd flip-flopped them, as I said. Now I have, at number 7, I have 1916. This is such a great album. I talked about this a couple of months ago. And a lot of people, based on the comments, a lot of people also really like 1916. This is another one. This album has another contender for one of my top. So this is 4 now. So we got Motorhead, Iron Fist, We Are Motorhead. And I'll add to that from 1916. Which song is it? I'll give you a few seconds. I'll delay to give you time to think. What song does he love so much on 1916? And it's not the title track, but it is a parentheses title, which I hate, but I don't care about that here because it's such a great song. And it's I'm So Bad, Baby, I Don't Care. And is it I'm So Bad in parentheses and then Baby, I Don't Care? Or is it I'm So Bad, Baby, and then I Don't Care? Or is it I'm So Bad? I think it's parentheses, Baby, I Don't Care. In any case, oh my God, what a song that is. I Make Love to Mountain Lions, Sleep on Red Hot Branding Irons, When I Walk the Roadway Shakes, Bed's a Mess of Rattlesnakes, Voodoo Child, Black Cat Moans, Scratch Your Back and Hear You, Black Cat Bones, Scratch Your Back and Hear You Moan, Get Me Up, You'll Go Down, Tall Buildings, Single Bound, Kiss the Whip, Beat the Gun. I think these are all out of order. Kiss the Whip, Beat the Gun, Tell Me It Ain't Fair, Midnight Victim, Hit and Run, I'm So Bad, Baby, I Don't Care. Black-Hearted, To the Bone, Older Than the Rolling Stones, Black-Hearted, Older Than the Rolling Stones, Been to Heaven, Been to Hell, Bought the Farm, But I Won't Sell, Give and Take, Rise and Fall, Rise Up and Take It All. I think I'm kind of all over the place with the lyrics, but man, I'm So Bad, Baby, I Don't Care is amazing. Another great song from that album that I really, really love is Going to Brazil. I could never, and I love the song so much, I could never get the words to that. Especially one line, something, so he's talking about the crew, something, and Pappy, they ain't too fucking happy. But yeah, Going to Brazil is fantastic. I do really like the title track. Damien from Melbourne, Australia, I think he said he didn't like that title track, and I can understand why some people wouldn't like it. It was very, very shocking at the time to hear a song like 1916, very totally different side of Motorhead, but I like it a lot. Similar to later Serial Killer on Hammered, spoken word, but very kind of not a ballad, but a very nice, tender, weepy song. And what else is on there? Nightmare, The Dreamtime, a little bit in the vein of Orgasmatron, the song Orgasmatron. No Voices in the Sky, great riffing on that one. Yeah, man, 1916. I'm trying again not to do this to track by track. 1916, for me, that was the last classic Motorhead album. That doesn't mean that it's the last one that I liked or even loved, but that had that Motorhead classic feel and style and, you know, sound and songs and everything to it. 1916 was the best before they really became more like a heavy band. What came after 1916? Oh, March or Die. Yeah, man, 1916, love it. Next is these next two, 7, so that's 1916 is number 7. 6 and 5 were similar to 7 and 8, that I could have put these in either order. And this has maybe dropped down over the years, not because I don't like it, but just because some other ones I've discovered that I like more. Number 6 is Another Perfect Day. This is also a little bit of a sentimental favorite for me. It was the first Motorhead record that I ever got. I got it, I don't think it was brand new at the time, but it was their current album at the time. I think it had probably been out for some time. And I didn't like it that much at the time. I knew a few Motorhead songs at that point, and I thought, oh, I got to get into this band. And I bought Another Perfect Day, and I was kind of disappointed. But over the years, I came to love it. Now, again, over more recent years, it's not that it's gone down. It's just that, as I said, there are other ones that I've found out that I like more. But Another Perfect Day, I would submit that the opening 3 songs, which are Back at the Funny Farm, Shine, and Dancing on Your Grave, those might be the best the first 3 best songs on any Motorhead record. Without thinking about going through record by record, man, any of those songs are just, you know, just incredible. And I love the rest of the album too. Die You Bastards, or Die You Bastard? Is it Bastard or Bastards? I can't remember. Die You Bastard, I think. And Rocket, the title track, Another Perfect Day, a little bit kind of different from Motorhead. Yeah, Another Perfect Day, sentimental favorite. And I think a lot of Motorhead fans too like it more now than, I think this is widely viewed now to be a better album than it was at the time. Brian Robertson was in the band, and you know, he wore his headband and his little Richard Simmons shorts, and a lot of Motorhead bangers in 1983 didn't like that kind of stuff. I didn't care, and I don't think I knew. But I think now people have come around and thought, yeah, Another Perfect Day is great. To me, it sounds like a classic Motorhead record. A lot of people think, no, Brian Robertson, you know, he changed their style. To me, it sounds like just like a great Motorhead record. So that's Another Perfect Day at number 6. I could have had that up at number 5, but I flip-flopped again, and I have number 5. At number 5, I have Rock and Roll. This came out in 1987. This was I guess at the height of my Motorhead fandom, somewhere around there. And I saw them on this tour. It wasn't my first time, but I did see them on that tour. And I was just so into Motorhead at this time. Probably they could have done anything and I would have loved it. I still love it. I think I probably love it. This one has probably remained in the same spot over all these years, these decades since 1987. I love the title track. Well, here, babe, look at you in love with someone else. Turned out like all the others, leave me by myself. That's how it works, I guess. And you like all the rest. Guess I can handle it if that's the way it is. I'm in love with rock and roll. It satisfied my soul. Love that song, Rock and Roll. Eat the Rich is next. Come on, baby, and eat the rich. Bite down on the son of a bitch. Don't mess up. Don't you give me no switch. Come on, baby, and eat the rich. Hash browns and bacon strips. I love the way that you lick your lips. No fooling. I can see you're drooling. Feel the hunger grow. What else is on this? You can't boogie with the boogeyman. Stone Deaf in the USA. Shake your ass, San Francisco Bay. I hate to leave. I want to stay. Treta. The Wolf. The Wolf is at your door. The Wolf. Oh. All for You. That's what a great song. All for You is. That's kind of a little bit of a love song by Motorhead. It's not a ballad. It's a rock song, but lyrically tried to fly, but we climbed too high. We saw it all. We had to fall. I'd swear it's true. Was all for you. Kind of a love lost song. Lemmy, that old softy, is singing about a chick that he's pining over. He regrets maybe breaking up with her. I don't know. But All For You is a great Motorhead song. A little bit different for their style, but really good. Rock and Roll, number 5, amazing album. Number 4 is Ace of Spades. This is maybe, I think this one and the self-titled Motorhead record from 1978 climbed higher over the years. Believe it or not, I didn't, and I talked about this, I guess, when I did the Ace of Spades episode. I never disliked Ace of Spades, but I just never I didn't get it the way most people did. Everybody, from the time I got into Motorhead, everybody talked about Ace of Spades being, the greatest Motorhead record. And I liked other ones better. I liked Rock and Roll better. I liked Another Perfect Day better. That's why those have slipped down a little bit, because Ace of Spades has gone up and pushed them down a little bit. I think Ace of Spades, it is the best sounding Motorhead record. I think it sounds amazing. Everything about it is amazing. It does have the odd cover. I think one of only 2. This one, Ace of Spades and Overnight Sensation, that has the band. Is there another one? I think that's all. I'm sure there's only those 2 that have the band on the cover. Man, Ace of Spades is incredible. And I did an episode. The episode I did of that was with Jason McMaster and Chris McClernand. And yeah, man, the title track, Ace of Spades, just thinking randomly. Another one of my, how many were around now of my favorite songs? I'm starting to talk like Donald Trump, starting to kind of slur my words and stammer and stutter a little bit. So we had We Are Motorhead, I'm So Bad, Baby, I Don't Care, Iron Fist, Motorhead, the song Motorhead. I would add The Hammer as in my top. I mean, that's 5 now. There's maybe a couple more that might be added to that list of potential for favorite. Man, The Hammer is just incredible. Bite the Bullet, We Are the Road Crew. I could never learn the lyrics of We Are the Road Crew. This is just always really hard to me. I couldn't get it. I don't know why. Another town, another place, something, another set of scars to boast, another bloody foreign post, another gig my ears bleed. I had a hard time learning the lyrics for that. Do I have to fix my camera again? It's kind of sliding, I think, out of its spot, sliding down. I apologize for the shoddy production values of this episode. What else? The Chase is Better Than the Cat's one of the first Motorhead songs I ever heard. Love You Like a Reptile, Shoot You in the Back, Fire, Dance. Yeah, awesome album, Ace of Spades. It took me a long time to realize how good it was. But yeah, I'll put Ace of Spades at number 4. A lot of people would have it at number 1 for sure. Number 3, and then this is where it gets a little bit predictable. You can maybe guess what number 3 is. There's only 3 left. Number 3 is Overkill. This one and number 2, also I could have flip-flopped, but I did listen to them earlier today just to, have them really, really close together, because I've always been kind of undecided which one I like better. When I listened to them today back to back, yeah, I do like number 2 better than number 3, obviously, and number 3 is Overkill. Now this has a couple of the real styles of Motorhead that I love. I'll Be Your Sister has that great Motorhead groove to it. I Won't Pay Your Price, the parenthetically titled I Won't, parentheses, pay your price. Move Out, It's Time for Someone Else. Quit Thinking Only of Yourself. You're Really a Nasty Piece of Work. We thought you were a hero, but you're really just a jerk. On My Way, I Won't Pay Your Price. Move Out, It's Time for... no, did I say that one already? I'll Be Your Sister has just... What an incredible groove that song has. I'll Be Your Sister, yeah. Damage Case. Stay Clean. No Class. Yeah, Overkill is really, really good. This is another one I think... I think in the... If you ask, let's say, 1,000 Motorhead fans, real Motorhead fans, and when I say a real Motorhead fans, I don't mean that as a gatekeeping... as a gatekeeper. I mean people who know enough about Motorhead to have an opinion on all their records. I think Overkill would come in at, for most people, 1 or 2. Probably Ace of Spades, I think, would be 1 or 2. Fantastic album. Overkill is probably my favorite Motorhead album cover. Maybe that could be a whole other episode, ranking the 23 album covers. But yeah, Overkill, love it. Number 2 is Bumber. This was one that I wasn't sure if it was 2 or 3, as I said when I listened to it today. Definitely, I like Bomber. It's clear, but it's very, very small that I like Bomber a little bit more than Overkill. Dead Man Tell No Tales. I don't know if I could add that to the list of contenders for top, but it is maybe a top 10 anyway. Breaking Out or Breaking Through. Breaking Something's All We Can Do. Shoot Straight, Travel Far. Stone Crazy Is All We Ever Are. I love Dead Man Tell No Tales. Lawman. Again, it has that great groove to it. This is why I kind of consider Overkill and Bomber to be almost like companion, because they both have kind of similar styles. As I said, Lawman has that great groove to it. Love Lawman. Sharpshooter, another one that has that kind of bounce similar to I Won't Pay Your Price. What is Sharpshooter? Like a Sniper, Got My Sights on You. The Windscreen Wiper, love it. Poison is great. I talked before that I thought that Anthrax could do a great cover of Poison. Scott Ian yelling Poison could be great. What else? Oh, one of my favorite, as far as I remember, the first Motorhead song I ever heard, and I could be wrong about this, but the way that I remember it was my first one, is Stone Dead Forever. That's another that could be in the top. I guess we're up to 6 now if I'm, compiling a list. Stone Dead Forever, oh my God, I love that song. You think you see me in the glass, you think you hear me, you better listen fast. I think I see you, Gone to Seed. The only reason were your guilt and greed. You're out there on your own. Your face turned to stone. Whatever happened to your life? Stone Dead Forever. Fantastic. What's the song that Fast Eddie sings? Step Down. And I thought, as when I did the episode at the time, I said that totally sounds like Ace Frehley singing. I even played that for my ex-wife in the car about a year ago, and I didn't tell her who it was, but I said, who do you think this is singing? And she said, Ace Frehley. And it's not, it's Fast Eddie. And that's also a different Motorhead song, not just for Fast Eddie singing the lead vocal, but musically, it's kind of a bluesy, a little bit of a slower song. Love Step Down. Talking Heads, Don't Touch That Dial. That's a great song. Again, I don't want to make this into a track by track. All the Aces. The only thing I know is playing. The only thing I know is playing rock and roll. All the aces. How many people? I don't like people ain't got no faces. Love that song. Yeah, and Limb from Limb. No, is Limb from Limb on? No, Limb from Limb is on Overkill. The last song I think on Overkill. What's the last song on Bomber? Oh my God, how could I forget the title track, Bomber? Add that. That's like 3. That's like Dead Men Tell No Tales, Stone Dead Forever, Bomber. Just from those 3 on this album right here are at the near the top of my list. And I like this version way more. I knew the live version from Bomber from, as I think I mentioned earlier, that I did have No Remorse. In order, I had Another Perfect Day was first, No Remorse was second, Orgasmatron was third. And so for years, I only knew the live songs that were on No Remorse that were taken from No Sleep Till Hammersmith, which included Motorhead, as I mentioned earlier, and Bomber. I only knew the live versions, and I didn't like Bomber all that much. I thought it was okay, and then when I finally heard the studio version, when I bought the album some years later, way better. Motorhead seems to be one of those rare bands that I think their records are better than, in most cases, than live. The opposite of Kiss. Kiss live is way better than Kiss studio. But yeah, man, Bomber, Ain't a Hope in Hell, Ain't a Hope in Hell, Nothing Gonna Bring Us Down, The Way We Fly, 5 Miles Off the Ground, we aim to kill, we shoot to please, we'll bring you to your knees, it's a bomber. Love Bomber. That's why it's at number 2. And number 1, if you've been paying attention, you'll notice that I haven't mentioned it yet because it's number 1, and that is Orgasmatron. Yes, Orgasmatron is my favorite Motorhead record. Possibly, again, it has to do a little bit with the timeline, I think. Now, at that point, I was a Motorhead fan for 3 years. I just mentioned seconds ago that I had Another Perfect Day, No Remorse, and Orgasmatron. So Orgasmatron was my second studio record, so it wasn't my first. But it was the first time I saw them live. I saw them in 1986 on that tour. Razor opened. And I was a big Motorhead fan already. But that show, that Motorhead show in 1986 at the Concert Hall in Toronto, really cemented me as a big Motorhead fan. And then Rock and Roll came out the next year, and that also had a big part. But man, Orgasmatron is just incredible. I love that record. It's one of the more unique sounding Motorhead records. It's the only one with Pete Gill on drums. It was also the first one with 2 guitarists, Wurzel and Wizzo. And a little bit different sounding, but still it's identifiable as Motorhead. And there's maybe one song, even though this is my favorite Motorhead album overall, I don't know if there's one single song that I would put on my list. Probably my favorite song on this record is Nothing Up My Sleeve, babe. But I'm not sure. It's kind of weird how much I love the album, but there's not one particular song that I would say this is my favorite Motorhead song. But I love it. Death Forever, Nothing Up My Sleeve, Ain't My Crime, Mean Machine, Claw, Built for Speed, Dr. Rock, Riding with the Driver, Orgasmatron. I think that's all 9. Almost in order. I think I got a few of them out of order. And I did hear Ain't My Crime definitely before the album came out. Definitely before I bought the album. Possibly even before the album came out. I've mentioned before this guy, Brian Taylor in Toronto, who had this college radio show, CKLN 88.1 in Toronto, CFRU. And he used to have this metal late night, Tuesday night at 11 o'clock or midnight metal show. And he played a lot of, heavy stuff and thrash and punk. And I seem to remember he played Ain't My Crime before the album was out. And that's a great song too. That could be, I like that one maybe just as much as Nothing Up My Sleeve. Nothing Up My Sleeve just has great lyrics. You're playing tricks, babe, and that's a fact. Your magic circle ain't where it's at. One moment you were here, and now you disappeared. This ain't the first time I've caught your act. Nothing up my sleeve. Your sleight of hand is messing up my life. Maybe this time, babe, you're gonna get it right. Can't remember what's after that. But yeah, Orgasmatron and the title track. It's not my favorite, but that's almost like the centerpiece of the album, even though it's the last one. That's that's almost like Motorhead's, I think almost should be considered their signature song, despite the fact that it's not my favorite, but it's just really representative of I think how Motorhead was at that time. It's got that great Lemmy vocal, you know, kind of scary. The music is very appropriate. The music and the lyrics match each other, and the vocal all go together. Yeah, Orgasmatron, the song is amazing. They're all amazing. So that's it. Orgasmatron is number 1. Now I don't know how to finish the video. That's all. So I'll recap. I'll do a recap. So here are some of my notes there. And okay, so 23. If you don't want to watch the whole thing, maybe you can skip to this. 23, March or Die. I'll try to include the year too. 23 was March or Die, 1992. 22, Overnight Sensation. And I'm going by memory. I didn't write the years down, so I might make some mistakes here. Overnight Sensation, 22. 1996. Aftershock, 21. That was 2013, I think. Yeah, 2013. Number 20 is Hammered, 2002. 19 is The World Is Yours, 2010. 18, Inferno, 2004. 17, Bad Magic, 2015, their last album. 16 is Motorizer, 2008. 15 is Kiss of Death, 2006. 14 is Sacrifice, 1995. 13, Snakebite Love, 1998. 12 on Parole. 76, I think it was recorded, 76 or 77, but didn't come out until 79 or 80, something like that. 11, Bastards, 1993. 10, we have Motorhead, 2000. Some people say the year 2000. It's just 2000. 9, Iron Fist, 1982. 8, Motorhead, the self-titled, 1978. 7, 1916, which came out in 1991. 6, Another Perfect Day, 1983. 5, Rock and Roll, 1987. 4, Ace of Spades, 1980. 3, Overkill, 1979. 2, Bomber, also 1979. It came out after Overkill. And number 1, Orgasmatron, 1986. Now I still don't know how to end this video, but that's it. So that's my official Motorhead album rankings. If you want to, like I said, I don't expect anybody, and I don't, to be honest, don't really want to see a list of 23 albums unless you really put some thought into it. But give me what are your favorite Motorhead records? Where do you and I differ? And also, what are your favorite Motorhead songs? Give me your 10 in any order, your top 5, top 10 Motorhead songs. I am curious to see, and I think age will play a factor into that too. Younger people are going to go with the later era. Old geezers like me are going to go with the classic era. So that's it. Thank you for watching. If you made it through the whole thing, you're a very special person, and I thank you for giving me your time. And I don't know how many of these album rankings I'm going to do. They really are a lot of work and take a lot of time. And I think you have to really have an opinion about a band's whole discography to do them. I did Kiss, and I've done Motorhead. I could do 2 others for sure. 1 quite easily. No, 2 quite easily. Another one I could probably do with a little bit of effort, a little bit more effort. I don't know. But anyway, that is it. Once again, thank you for watching. I'm rambling, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. See ya.